Imagine you are building a massive game codebase. You have a warrior class, a wizard class, a healer class, and so on, and all of them have the same properties, name and health. Writing those over and over again inside every single class would be redundant and prone to bugs if you were to refactor the structures in the future. In object-oriented programming, we have a concept called inheritance. We create a single base class or parent class that has just the things that all of these classes should have in common, and then we create child classes that can inherit those and expand with their own unique properties. Let's start by creating a parent class called BaseCharacter. We'll define a constructor and say every single character should have a character name and initial health. We'll set those properties as name and health. We will also define a method called takeDamage that allows us to pass an amount, reduce the health by that amount, and then return a string that gives us a description of what just happened. Name takes amount, damage, health, and then we'll provide the health, and that's it. So if we treat this as a parent class, any characters that were to inherit from BaseCharacter would automatically have the name and health properties, and also the takeDamage method. So let's create a child class called Wizard. Class Wizard. And in order to inherit, we use the extends keyword and then give the name of the parent. So Wizard is being created as an extension of BaseCharacter. For the constructor, we need to accept not only the character name and the initial health, but any new information we want just for wizards. In this case, the starting magic. Now, this is important. If the parent has parameters in its constructor, you have to call the parent first with the super keyword. And I'm going to take the character name and the initial health that were passed in when I created a wizard and pass them upward to the parent's constructor. So that's the first step, because we have to honor the contract of this particular signature that belongs to the parent and pass just those two upward, because this is where those properties were created and stored with any object of this class. So Wizard will inherit that, but we don't have the logic here to create name and health. It already exists here. So we have to run this constructor with the super keyword. Super is short for superclass, which is another name for a parent class or a base class. Now that we've handled the two properties that were established in the parent, let's create any properties that are unique to Wizard. In this case, this dot magic points, and we will assign starting magic as the initial value for that property. Now let's say wizards need to have an additional method, cast spell. We can define that here. We'll say that anytime a spell is cast, the magic points are going to be decreased by 10. And then we'll return a string that describes what happens when the spell is cast. This.name casts a spell. Magic remaining. This.magic points. And of course, the order I did that was important because we needed to decrease magic points before I'm able to say what's remaining. So a question that you might be asking is, does a wizard only have the cast spell method, or do they also have access to the takeDamage method? The answer is, they have access to both, because anything that's defined in the parent gets inherited by the child. Let's create a wizard and see how this works. I'll create Merlin, a new wizard. His name is Merlin. He has 80 health points and 50 magic points. So now let's call both methods and we will print the string that returns. So I'll say Merlin.takeDamage and pass in 15 points of damage. And then I will also print the result from Merlin.castSpell. Let's run it. Merlin takes 15 damage, health 65. Merlin casts a spell, magic remaining 40. So just to review, we have a parent class that establishes name and health and the takeDamage method. We use the extends keyword to create wizard as an extension of BaseCharacter. So this is the child class now. It has its own constructor, so we can create a wizard with character name, initial health, and starting magic. The character name and initial health need to get passed to the parent's constructor using the super keyword. That calls this constructor right here and assigns those values to the name and health properties. But then we also create a new property within Wizard, magic points, and apply the starting magic that was passed in as the third parameter. Then we established a second method, cast spell, but Wizard also has access to takeDamage, which it inherits from BaseCharacter. Let's take a look at your practice. You'll have a base hero with name and health. You'll create a child class called Warrior that extends the base hero class, and you're going to set up the constructor to make use of the parent constructor, and then you're going to create a new warrior and log a description using properties from both of those classes to show that they all belong to the child. Down here you have a class called Griffin that extends companion animal, but something's not quite right about how this has been done. So you're going to have to fix it and then verify that it is working. That's all I've got. I will see you in the next one.